Hi folks, my name is Skip Waite, and this is a Native American style flute kit that I am shipping out for Christmas and after. I am a woodcarver by hobby, and as a woodcarver I started making Native American flutes out of branches and splitting them in half, gouging out the inside, spending weeks and weeks to make the flute. And I sold those flutes for a lot of money, but I said to myself, I was down in the Plymouth area at the waterfront all summer, and I wanted to get a flute that I could sell very inexpensively. This is what I came up with. I have a shop over in Mattapoisett, Massachusetts, not too far from me, that the gentleman that owns the place has a router. He's a milling shop, and he has a router, and what he does is he gives me these two pieces of wood that have been routed on the inside. So all the work that I've had to do for the last few years has been done. Now all I have to do is turn this into a Native American flute on the outside. The inside's already done. But this is the kit. It comes with the two pieces. The flat piece is the top, the round piece is the bottom. You'll see what I mean by that in a few minutes. And you'll have this little piece which is called a block, and it will go on top of the sound track that I will teach you how to make. Now, before we make this flute, you're going to need a few things. I'm going to show you what you need. You don't have to have most of this stuff, but you should. I use this torch because I burn the inside of this so that it is as smooth as humanly possible. You can sand it, you don't have to burn it, but you're better off if you burn it. I have some Gorilla wood glue. You gotta have some glue. You can use Elmer's or any one you want. Please go out and buy a 1/4-inch wood chisel. I use this for everything. It doesn't have to be a Stanley, but it needs to be a 1/4 inch. That's the right size. You're gonna need a knife of some sort. It could be a utility knife, a wood carving knife, just a knife. You'll see why as I get going. You're gonna need some fine, fairly fine, and some fairly rough sandpaper. Not a lot. We're going to sand the outside of that later. Pencil. A rat tail file. You're going to need one of these. You don't have to get that. You can use just this. This is a set of jewelry files. They work absolutely perfect on the flute. You'll see how that works as we go along today. Electrical tape. Fabulous stuff. Don't use duct tape, it's too sticky. A pad of steel wool, plain steel, not SOS, you don't want any soap in it or anything, just steel wool, fine, fairly fine. I bought this a few years ago. It's a guitar tuner. It tells you what note you're playing on the flute. They have these, there's one called G-String that you can actually download on your phone that does the same thing that this does. I happen to buy this, but you can download a tuning program. And the most important thing of all, you need 2 paper towels because you're going to get glue all over yourself. All right, I've done that. We now understand. This is what we're going to end up with. Start with, and this is what we'll end up with. Shouldn't take you much more than an hour to put it together. So, all right, now, oh yeah, you probably want to hear it too. It works. Okay, so that's that. Now the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to take the torch, I'm going to take the steel wool, I'm going to go outside, and I'm going to burn this out. I'm going to burn this out without burning the top edge of either one of them, and do not burn this out. This is the mouthpiece part, and you want the spit as you're playing that to absorb in there and then dry. If you burn it out, it'll wet up on you, you won't be able to play the flute. So, all right, I'm going outside and burn these. Here, so I'm going to burn out this inside. See, you can see what I'm doing. I'm burning the inside, getting rid of all the roughness that's in there, that's all. It's pretty easy to do. You want to make sure you get it nice and cooked, because that really hardens up the pine too. And this one is pine, I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. This is pine. This will be just as smooth can be when I'm done with it. There's A and B. Maybe I should number them. Make sure you don't do that top edge. The top edges will not stick together if you burn it. That's how hard it actually makes the pine. The Elmer's glue or Gorilla Glue won't work worth a darn. Pretty amazing. All right, now, that's fine. Now what I'm going to do is this. That is going to be just as smooth can be. The smoother this is, the clearer the sound, the voice of the flute. That's what they call it, is a voice. I think it's kind of cute. First time it works, I always get very excited to hear the first sound. You gotta remember, for years I've been taking sticks, branches, and turning them into flutes. And what that means is all of a sudden I've taken a branch, I've brought it into life, and it's an instrument. And I'll show you one that I made when we go back in. All right, we're in good shape. I'm gonna leave this out here. We'll come back and get it. Let's go back in and start working on this.
Yep.
I'm back in. Okay, I'm back in. One thing I never mentioned, and I should have, this air channel needs to be sanded out. Not burned, but I do need to sand it, make it nice and smooth, which is what I'm doing right now. I think so. All right, so that's got the worst of that is out of there. I'll do the same. Remember the round? That's the bottom. Square is the top. I'll show you why in a minute. Doesn't take an awful lot of sanding. Just make sure that you get all the funny little humps and bumps out of there, that's all. All right, done. Now, take your 1/4-inch chisel. We have a beautiful light here because it's hitting perfect. You can see what I want to do. I'm going to take this chisel and I'm going to set it right there in the middle. See that? I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that. So see that line right there? That line right there. I'm just going to cut it deeper. See the line there? I'm going to cut it deeper. Learn to do this. The reason I'm telling you to learn to do this, when we make the soundtrack, this is how we make it. I'm going to show you what happens here. Very carefully, take out a little tiny bit of that. I'm wiggling the chisel. See how I'm wiggling the chisel? Now, see that piece? And we do it one more time. Do this one more time. That's probably about half a credit card, right? Go easy, easy does it. Easy, easy. You may think this is fun, but you know what? I'm teaching you how to do something most people don't know how to do. This is actually the secret to the flute working. All right, now that's the bottom one. This is the top one. We're gonna put the top on the bottom, like that. See that right there? Remember the pencil I talked about? We're going to take the pencil and put it right there and right there. You know why? So I have that in the right spot. Makes sense to me. Now, we're going to cut this like this. We're going to cut that like that. Whoops, I went out too far. Go in more. Like that. I did it. That won't make any harm because we're going to be gluing this all together. Now, if you noticed, I'm always going away from myself with these sharp objects. Don't ever cut toward yourself. If you do, you better have the number of the emergency room because you're going to need them. They'll be stitching you up. We don't want that to happen. 2, 3. Now look, I'm gonna go 4. Go 4 real thin. See how nice and thin I did those? Now, those 4 just showed you how to make the soundtrack, but we did it with the air intake. Now I'm gonna take this file, and I'm gonna file that because I don't care about that being flat at all. But you need to learn how to make it flat, and that's why I did that. Wait till you see what you're gonna do later. You're gonna love it. Now we'll take the file and do this one. Pretty good. Now remember, top is flat, bottom is round. So this is the bottom. And it is the bottom. This is flat because right here, I'm going to put a hole here and a hole here. And those 2 holes are going to be where the soundtrack is, and it's on the flat top. Then the holes for the notes will be on the flat top also. This is the square. Make sure it's the square. I'm using my wood carving knife. Right there, I'm going to gently just make a hole. Now, I've used this knife for many, many years, and it's a wonderful knife. I love this knife. This knife is going to do something that you've never seen before. Going to make a square hole, because I have to have a square hole. I don't know why, but I guess the Indians were square. It works. They knew that it worked. I don't know how they knew it, but they knew it. Now from here, I'm going that way. This is what you have to be very, very careful doing. Make sure that you're working on a square hole that's not going to be any bigger than 1/4 of an inch. When I'm done with this, it will be 1/4 of an inch. Now, it's not rocket science. If you're a little teeny bit over or a little teeny bit under, that's okay. But not a ton. If you're a ton off, you're gonna mess this up, and you're gonna be using sawdust and wood glue and everything else and try to patch it. So take your time. It won't take more than an hour to do it perfectly
Take that off so we can
once.
show what he's doing. Yeah, take the elastic off so he can show them what he's going for. Is this one of the ones you're doing?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, you can show them after you show their goal.
Yeah, we'll set that right here. Matter of fact, that's a good idea. There's what we're doing right there, guys. And then, see that track? That track is why you just practiced scraping out that little bit of wood. That was good practice. You'll see why. I'll just show you where that's where I'm at so far. Now we'll go on the inside, and I'll make that square too. After I get through playing with this thing, then I'll take the files, those Harbor Freight files, and we'll clean this up, and we'll put a nice little slope in it. There's one square hole, not bad at all. Now we're gonna make another one. This is the sound end of the flute, and this is the air end of the flute. So the air and the sound are blocked right here.
Okay.
When we glue this together, that'll be solid.
Okay.
So the distance will be the track,
Okay.
like that one.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yep.
It's very rare that I make sense. So I like it when I do. Okay. See how I'm wiggling that knife? That's how I'm getting it to go through there without ripping the wood. If you wiggle it, you won't rip it. And I'm going with the grain. According to the book, that'll work. Now we'll see. So far, so good. See, just I'm wiggling that, that's all. And this is pine. Pine is very, very soft. I have flutes that are made out of mahogany and walnut and oak, and a lot tougher to make the hardwood flute than it is the pine or the cedar. However, pine and cedar are very, very standard for Native American flutes. They like the soft, mellow sound. When you get into the hardwoods, you get more of a crispy sound. And I think they really made them out of pine and cedar because they're easier to make. They didn't have the tools that I've got. They probably had a piece of flint on a piece of leather that they tied on a stick to try to make this hole with. I'm doing it with a knife that I probably paid $100 for a long time ago. But the knife works a lot better than the piece of flint would, I'm sure. All right. Remember, think square. Take a square meal, hold a square hole. All right, now, I've made two fairly good square holes. This Harbor Freight flat file, jewelry file, is absolutely perfect for this. I'm going to put it in here. It's just the right size. Look at that. That was perfect. How rare. All right. Now all I'm doing is I'm cleaning that out. That's all I'm doing. See that? Just cleaning out that square hole. You'll probably be more fussy than me. And the more fussy you are, the better it'll sound too. See how square that really is? That's pretty square. Nice. Do the same thing now on the... Now this is the sound hole side. That's the air, and this is the sound. This file is absolutely perfect for this. Wait till you see what we have to do next. This is what you practiced for earlier. Nope. Now I'm going to keep going forward this way until this will turn nicely the other way. That's the same size. Make it the same size as the other one.
What did you just say?
I can't fit this in here right now, so I'm going to go this way, file further down until I can fit the chisel in the other way.
Equal squares.
Very important. Then I'm going to mess that up after a while. Yeah, hey, look at that. I did it. Look at that. What have we done? I'm happy to be square. All right. I'm happy to be square. Look at that. We've done it. Okay, two nice square holes. Now remember, I took my knife and I laid down my chisel and I marked that 1/4 inch when I did this part right here. We're going to do the same thing here, but I'm not going to use the chisel. I'm going to look at this corner and I'm going to draw this down to this corner. Look at this corner, draw it down to that corner. Now do it one more time, but not too deep. One more time, not too deep. That is your soundtrack. Now I'm going to leave the air end here, and I'm going to start in the center of this and see how well this is going to pop out. If I'm going the wrong way on the grain, I'm going to turn this around and do it the other ways. I'm starting in the middle, so if it's not right, I'm not going to mess up anything because I can cut out more. Let's take a little tiny bit off. Little tiny. Tiny, tiny. Seems to be going nice. I'm going to come up here to the edge now and take a little tiny bit again. Little tiny bit. Careful, careful, careful. I'm holding that chisel steady and pushing it very gently. I'm going to do it. Now look at, see the pitch on this level, on this chisel? I'm trying to keep it flat in there. So what I'm doing is I'm going exactly the same angle as the chisel. I'm just sliding it over the top like that. Now I'm going to turn this around and do the same thing going the other way. And it doesn't like going that way because that's the wrong way for the grain. See that? But if we're gentle, very gentle, we did it. Now I want to go back this way again. Take your time. This is the most important part of the flute. If you mess this up, you're gonna spend a lot of time trying to fix it. Everything's fixable, but you don't wanna have to fix it. Now I'm gonna take this file again. I'm just gonna go down here, make sure that's smooth is all I'm doing. Down here, make sure it's smooth. I like it. Now, because I like it, I'm gonna take this, where did I put that? My fine sandpaper. There it is, right there. I'm gonna take this fine sandpaper and I'm gonna roll it tight. Roll it like that. Get it rolled? Now take your block that comes with the kit, put the block right before the hole. Okay? Now I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna sand right here. I'm gonna make this a little lower than the top of the flute without hitting the track. The last thing I wanna do is hit the track. Now you can keep going like this for the next 4 or 5 minutes, or you can cheat like I'm going to. If it's your first flute, don't do what I'm doing right now. If it's your second or third one, you can. I'm taking off a little bit of this because I know I need to without touching the hole. And what I'm doing here, you need to understand this. Let's call this a 1/4 of an inch deep, and it certainly isn't. It's only a couple of millimeters, 2 or 3 millimeters. I want this to be half the depth of that. And that way half the air is gonna go in, half the air is gonna come out, and that's what's gonna make it work. If you don't do that, it won't work. So I'm cheating a little bit here. I'm using my knife, I'm using my sandpaper, and I know what I'm doing. Please, just stick with the sandpaper and take your time until you've done a few of these. After you've done a few of them, and you feel comfortable, you can do it the way I just did it. Or if you're a professional wood carver and you work all the time with wood and stuff, you know what I'm talking about. So now I'm just gonna put my thumb where that block was, so I know my thumb will do the same thing. All right, I've got that down now. Now this may not be down enough to be the perfect sound hole yet, but it's a good beginning to it. What we want to do is we're going to glue this together, and after we glue it together, we're going to hope that we have a sound. Remember I call that the voice? Once you hear the voice, we can always make the voice better. Once in a while I've done one of these and I have no voice. Hate that. Gotta start all over again. Now we got perfect sunlight here, I guess, to show you this. I need to take this wood out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go just like this and make a track. Very careful, guys.
Hold it up.
See that? See that? Very careful. Now you still got plenty of room between this top and that. We want to have a little extra play there. I'm gonna do it again. This is tricky. This is tricky. If you mess this up, you're gonna hate yourself. Can you see that thickness there now? Pretty good? Flip it over so you can see what I did. Now, I'm gonna take my chisel and I'm gonna gouge out this. This funny little piece will flip right out of there, watch. Oh, see it flip right out? Then this will flip right out, turning the chisel the other way. All right, now that's pretty wide open. Okay. This file that we're working with right here, put it right in there. See that? It's about a 30, 45 degree angle to there. That's absolutely perfect. I'm gonna clean this little bit of wood up. Just flakes and things in there. You can't have anything there. It's gotta be clear. And we can't burn it now that I've already made the sound hole. All right, now, air's gonna come in here. It's gonna go out there. So now I need to, just the opposite of this going that way, this is gonna go the other way. This is going that way. This is going this way. Follow me? I take this chunk of wood out that I talked about earlier, very careful. Take this chunk of wood out, very careful. Okay, now we're gonna take the file And we're gonna file this way now, just the opposite. See, I'm going this way here. See that? I'm going this way here. See the difference? Air comes in, think of the file as being air. It comes in here, it goes out there and back down into there. That's how it works. I'm just gonna take a minute to clean out this extra wood that's in here. Just roughness is all it is. You can do it with sandpaper, you can do it with anything you want. And go right over that track. That's what's gonna happen. That's a pretty darn nice setup again. That's the hardest part of the flute. You just did it. Now it's gonna get real easy. Now we're gonna get this marvelous electrical tape. And these are my wood grips. This electrical tape, this is my wood grips. Pretty good length because I want to be able to wrap it around the flute. We get this old glue that I told you about. Make sure we know where the paper towels are. I'm going to take this and I'm going to glue. A little glue here and a little glue there. Not a ton. I'm going to take our finger and spread it out afterwards anyway. This is why I need the paper towels. This flute is too long, by the way, for an A flute. It will be an A flute, but we have to cut it off. That's one of the things that we do have to do. So you probably need a little saw of some sort too, which I didn't even think of. You will need a saw, because you got to cut it off. I try to use as little glue as possible. It's awful stuff to clean up later. So there's that. 2 pieces of paper towels. There it is. We took a little of this, a little bit like that, a little like that. Oh, you know, when you get this all over me. Let's try my knife. Okay. Oh, nice. Look at that. There's one. Oh, there's 2. Remember, you can use any wood glue you want. It doesn't have to be any brand name or anything. Hundreds of years ago, the Native Americans actually used what they called hide glue. And it was the hide of an animal that was boiled and boiled and boiled to make glue. And they would use that to glue things together. And what's really interesting is that years later, if you want to take it apart, you steam it. And the hide glue lets go and the wood isn't damaged, it just comes right apart. You can't do that with Elmer's glue or Gorilla glue or anything else, but you can do it with the hide glue. A little bit too much glue there. I don't want that running all over the place. Now, we're going to put these 2 things together. The bottom on the top on the bottom, however you want to say it. Line them up somewhat, lined up somewhat. I'm going to take a piece of this black magic. I'm going to put it on there like that. And I'm going to pull it as tight as I can pull it. And you know what that's doing? Holding together the flute. Now we'll take it down this end, line this up, and do exactly the same thing. Once you get to touch the electrical tape, you can pull it nice and tight. And it really, really squeezes that together. Squeeze that. Look how I'm getting that to squeeze that stuff right out of there. That's how I know it's right. See how that's tightened? The more I go around, the more glue comes out. See how nice and tight that is? Now right here is critical. This is where the north and the south meet. So it's all one piece. So we're gonna get that good and tight. All right? That now is as tight as it needs to be. There's a little movement there. I'm gonna put another piece on there because I see a little movement. Don't be bashful, the tape is cheap. I want to put that right here. Okay, that's tightened it up. Now this is an interesting time. This is one of my more exciting times of this because at this point, oh yeah, at this point, first thing you always do, get the glue off the mouthpiece. Otherwise your lips will lock together. I'll whittle this down to a mouthpiece later. The air comes in here, it goes into that chamber that we just sanded out. It's gonna come up here, it's gonna go down this track, and the block that comes in the kit, you put the block right in front of that front hole, right in back of it, the back of it. Now, hold your fingers on there like that, and guess what? We have a voice. That's a voice. Now this is going to be, someday, the key of A. And it's going to be the key of A because this is a 3/4 inch bore. The sound hole is here, and from this sound hole to 13 inches, I will cut it off. At 13 inches, that will be the key of A. It might be 12 and 7/8, it might be 13 and 1/8. There could be something in there that messes it up a little bit. So I do just under the 13 inches first, and I'll keep cutting a little bit more off until I get to the A using this. But I know where the holes go. I do have a voice, which I'm excited about, but I know it could be better if this was a little deeper in the front. So I'm just going to sand it a little more without touching the track itself. I want to get down a little deeper, get a little better voice. That's what's important right now, just to get a little better voice. If you go too far down here, you lose it totally. Then you start all over again. Or you'd have to fill in the track, which would be awful. I don't want people to have to become flute makers to assemble my kit. So I'm making it simple, simple, simple. I'm just gonna try again. Make sure I get a little sound there. Much better. All right, now, next thing, I just say in my cheat sheet here, I forgot to tell you, you need a tape measure. So, what I'm gonna do, everything is from the sound hole, the edge of the sound hole. So from the edge of the sound hole to right about here, there's the edge of the sound hole, and right about here is 13 inches. So that's where we're gonna cut it off. Now our holes need to be from the sound hole. Four and 3/8. I like that. 4 and 3/8. 4 and 3/8. And 5 and 3/16. And 5. And 1, 2, 3/16. All right. Now what we're gonna do, you're gonna go from the hole of the flute, the front of the sound hole, 4 and 3/8, 5 and 3/16, 6 and 7/8, 7 and 7/8, 8 and 7/8, cut it off at 13 inches. And I also will have them put together and not finished. The sanded, not finished. You could oil them, you could shellac them, you could sand them, paint them, you could do anything you want with them. But they are tuned and they are ready to be finished. And those are 75, if you would be interested in those. And they're all 5-hole flutes that I make. The traditional Native American flute is 5 holes. You're going to see a lot of flutes that are 6 holes. I have no idea why. Yeah, to me, they're contemporary Native American style flutes. And somebody in the 1900s decided to put a 6th hole in. No Native American ever had a 6-hole flute. Now, I'm going to take the chisel now, and look what I'm doing with the chisel. Same thing I was doing with the knife, very carefully. And guess what? It's a 1/4-inch chisel. You know what that means? It's a 1/4-inch hole. Now that's good. No, that's not bad. Now, it's not done wonderfully. It's the beginning. It's a kit. I'm just getting some of the burrs off of it here. This file, this rat tail file, you're going to be using that to tune this thing. I'm just getting the worst of the worst off. But I want to show you something. Nothing. You got to put the block on. Without the block, you're not going to have anything. Now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you this one for a reason, I will put the block on like this, because when you're tuning your flute, and you may not even want to tune it, you may just keep it the way it is. But if you do want to tune it, you don't want that block moving all the time that you're tuning it. It won't come off or be moved or forward or back too much. Now, it works, doesn't it? Less than an hour. It's not tuned right, it's not sanded, it's not varnished, it's not shellacked, it's whatever you want it to be. It's not decorated with feathers and beads, and I'm going to show you. When you don't know where to put the holes, when you're trying to tune a flute, because it's made from a real branch like this one was, I kept trying to get the holes in the right place by filling it back in and putting new holes and filling it back in and putting new holes. So I finally found out where they were. Then I put this mahogany in here, and I put the holes exactly where I knew they were supposed to be. It looks like I did it on purpose. It wasn't, but listen. That's what yours will sound like. And there's a bone, and there's a little leather frazzle thing that somebody gave me. It's fun to do. Have some fun. Thank you for purchasing from me. I also have hardwood flutes. I have different keys in those also. They're a lot more expensive. They're also in kits. But I wouldn't suggest buying one until you've tried a pine one first. Thank you very, very much for doing business with me and chatting with me for a few minutes. Good luck.